He woke before dawn because a horseman had broken the stillness of the royal compound with the kind of news that does not travel in measured words. The courier rode hard, breath frosting in the cold, and handed a single tablet into the king's hands. It said Rome had sent an envoy. It said the envoy would not leave until he had his answer. The king looked out over the lamps of the city and imagined the Republic as a distant machine, an unpredictable but distant machine. And so he answered, as kings always had, by arranging an alliance, by dispatching gifts, by trying to outmaneuver one problem with another. He did not yet understand that the machine had recently learned to shut doors. Another ruler was counting silver from a tribute that had come in late. His treasurers muttered about the cost of mercenaries and the price of grain. He had treaties with the Romans. He had hosted their ambassadors and been called friend in writing. Friendship, he believed, was a thing that could be banked like coin. When a Roman consul appeared, not as a guest but as an inspector, when legions began to march where they had promised merely to watch, the court's certainty collapsed faster than any new tax could be levied. These are scenes from different courts of the Hellenistic world, played out across decades. A Seleucid king advancing into the Ptolemaic sphere, a Macedonian prince building alliances across the Aegean, a Ptolemaic regent begging for time. In each moment, the same assumption underlay the decisions that Rome, for all its odd institutions and popular tumult, was fundamentally a republic that acted like a Greek power might, by treaties, by speeches, by carefully calibrated displays of honor. The surprise came when the republic moved as if it had become a force whose grants of friendship could not be simply accepted or negotiated away. To understand why these kings trusted the republic requires listening to how the world had been organized for a century before the shocks. The Hellenistic monarchies were built on ritualized relations, embassies, honorific decrees, marriage ties, carefully worded treaties. Kings expected interstate life to be argumentative but negotiable. Rome, when it first intervened in Greek affairs, stepped into that established choreography. It declared freedom for Greek cities. It judged disputes. It acted like an outsider arbiter enforcing a new set of norms. From the palaces, this looked less like conquest and more like a shifting balance of patronage. Roman politics lent that impression weight. The Senate sent decrees. Magistrates came and went. Treaties were ratified at the Curia. Roman words mattered. When the Senate pronounced someone a friend, that designation carried legal and moral force in Mediterranean diplomacy. Hellenistic courts wrote these Roman terms into their ledgers and budgets. The idea of friendship with Rome became a currency for kings to spend, a shield against rivals, a way to legitimize claims, a justification for taxes. Yet the republic that issued those words was not a monolith. The late Roman Republic was a knot of competing ambitions. Senators with provincial interests, magistrates eager for glory, client networks that stretched into Asia Minor. Its institutions, assemblies, proconsular commands, senatorial decrees, could be wielded by individuals as much as by consensus. That variability was invisible at first to those who read only the output. Decrees that looked like law, envoys that looked like guarantees. They did not see the way Roman power was changing internally toward an appetite for permanent influence, for creating dependencies that outlived the immediate crisis. Decisions inside Hellenistic courts were framed by pressure. Kings needed revenue for courts and armies. Prestige required campaigns when rivals did not back down. Succession anxieties pressed rulers to grab territory while they still had legitimacy. So, when Ptolemaic weakness showed, Seleucid ambition saw an opportunity. When Macedonian neighbors grew richer, Macedon sought allies. Those decisions were made against the background of a republic that provided predictable rulings, until it did not. Take Antiochus III, the Great, and his later successors. Antiochus had restored prestige after many years of disorder. His campaigns in the West seemed both necessary and conventionally acceptable. But Roman interpretation of his actions was not merely legal. Rome saw the expansion of a Hellenistic empire into areas Rome had begun to regard as within its purview. When war came, it came with legions and strategic aims that were reshaping boundaries, indemnities, restrictions on fleets, the forced handing over of hostages and territories. The treaty that followed Magnesia in 188 BC did not read like a negotiated settlement between equals. It read like an order: pay, disarm, cede. For the Seleucid monarchy, the surprise was not only military defeat, but the degree to which Roman decisions could reach into internal policy. The anecdote so often told about Antiochus IV Epiphanes and a Roman envoy who effectively boxed him in with an ultimatum is not merely theater. It captured for contemporaries the new posture of Roman diplomacy: instant, uncompromising, and backed by force. That episode crystallized a lesson for many kings. Rome did not necessarily bargain in the old Hellenistic way. It could and would draw lines. Macedon under Perseus misread the rhythms too. Perseus had inherited a kingdom diminished, but still honored in Greek literature. He believed he could reassert Macedonian influence, using alliances and diplomacy to hedge against Rome. He relied on the formalities of interstate relations, letters, embassies, decrees, to shield him from the worst. Rome declared war in 171 BC after a series of intrigues, and the Third Macedonian War ended the Antigonid monarchy in 168 BC at Pydna. Perseus's surprise was not that Rome could win, but that a republic could dismantle a kingship with such finality. His defeat was a rupture, no longer a temporary setback, but a permanent reordering. Ptolemaic rulers learned the same lesson in stages. Egypt had long played the Roman game well: lavish gifts, marriages, and strategic alliances. Yet Roman interest in the eastern Mediterranean turned into direct involvement in Ptolemaic succession crises, ultimately turning Egypt into a stage for Roman power struggles. The slow erosion of Ptolemaic independence did not happen in a single violent convulsion. It happened by successive intrusions, by the Republic's agents enforcing settlements that tilted the balance, by the creation of private dependencies that kings could not easily remove. These decisions inside kingdoms produced consequences that accumulated. Indemnities drained treasuries. Losses of coastal cities deprived polities of revenue and naval power. The formal designation of cities as free or the imposition of client rulers remade institutions of self-government, often in ways that benefited cities allied to Rome and punished those that were not. Kings found themselves constrained not merely by new Roman military presence, but by a transformed legal landscape. Decrees and treaties that limited where they could send fleets, whom they could marry, or how they could mobilize mercenaries. Over time, the aftermath was unmistakable. What had begun as a republic adjudicating disputes had become a system that produced provinces and client kings, a network designed to keep the seas safe for Roman interests and to prevent any single Hellenistic monarch from remaking regional balances. The Hellenistic world did not end overnight. It frayed. Local elites adjusted to new realities. Courts learned to court Roman favor, and the languages of friend and enemy acquired technical meaning. The kings who had trusted in Roman words alone found those words insufficient. when the Republic's internal dynamics pushed it toward permanent control. The story is not simply that Rome was greedy or that the kings were naive. It is a story of institutional mismatch. Hellenistic diplomacy evolved in a world of ceremonies and treaties among pure polities. The late Roman Republic evolved into a polity whose internal competition exported its conflicts outward, turning temporary alliances into long-term structures. The surprise came when the old markers of safety, an embassy, a written decree, the title of friend, no longer guaranteed the stability they once promised. So the question remains, as the lamps guttered in those distant courts and the envoys' horses faded down the road, did these kings trust a republic because they could not imagine an alternative? Or did they deliberately choose to live by old rules until those rules no longer held?